right, well, good morning. All right, you can do a little better than that. Good morning. All right, well, good.
This is a lot of people.
A lot of people out there. The crowd filled up. So I know I don't want to be too redundant, but if you're from Birmingham, let's give it up for Mayor Woodfin. That's right. That's right. So we got a lot of folks out here, Mayor.
I see a large contingency of people, but love to see them. Beautiful people out here.
Good to see you so early in the morning.
Yeah.
So Ed, introduced you, and I'm not going to reintroduce you, but I do want to say this, and I think that all of the folks in Birmingham are going to agree. This is what I admire about you. In addition to what's on your resume and you being mayor, you are honest and authentic. And I think that that's important. It's important in a person. It's certainly important in a mayor. And I think all of your colleagues and other elected officials are going to agree that that's the quality that really makes us love you, respect you, and follow you as mayor.
Bob, I appreciate that. I'll say this. One, good morning to everybody. It's good to be here at the NCRC conference. Two, a shout out has already been given to the Birmingham City Council and Birmingham team, but I do want to acknowledge my president, Wardine Alexander, and my pro tem, Crystal Smitherin. And all of their colleagues, but there is one of them who has a very special day today. Everybody, please help me wish Carol Clark, Birmingham City Councilor, a happy birthday.
Hey.
And no, it's not tomorrow or yesterday. Today is actually her birthday. But no, this conference is important, so I want to start there. I want to acknowledge the entire NCRC team. I want to give a big shout out to Ed Gorman. He was truthful in what he said, everybody. His team and my team with Growth, they literally meet once a week via phone, some form of a conference. And I think that's important when you're doing this type of work, that as a public-private partnership, accountability is key. And so one of the ways that you make that accountability work is through consistent and constant communication. So it works.
It does. So I want to take us back because I want you to get to know Randall Woodfin just a little bit better. And first of all, I want to acknowledge that you recently got engaged. Congratulations.
Thank you, Bob.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
And so, Scripture says that when a man findeth a wife, he finds a good thing. And so
I support that
that's
scripture.
right. Amen.
Yeah. I support that scripture, everybody.
Yeah. And just in keeping with the transparency, here's a mayor who's on Facebook. We know about, what he cares about. But I did see something that was sort of surprising last week. I found out that you put sugar in your grits. You got to tell us about that.
All right. I see Bob is in a good mood, everybody. And clearly, this is about to turn into a roast session.
Oh, no.
But before you kill me and run me off the stage, let me explain. I get it honest. I am a fourth generation sugar and grits. My great grandmother lived with me until she was 100 years old, everybody. And it didn't matter if it was oatmeal, rice, or grits. She put sugar in all of it. Now, I don't know how y'all do it in your house you grew up in, but you eat what your grandmama eat. And I meant to say it just like that. Now, I'll help you out. I do not put sugar in shrimp and grits, so I hope I can meet you there. So don't kill me.
All right.
Shout out to all the salt people, though. I love you as well.
So, I've had an opportunity to actually see you interviewed twice in the last month. Once at the A.G. Gaston Conference, and Phyllis Dickerson, who's actually going to be part of this conference, did a great job. And then Mila Calhoun at the Power of Leadership when you were on stage with Martin Luther King III.
Yes, sir.
And I learned something that I didn't know, and I don't want to preempt it. But you becoming mayor is not something you decided you wanted to do in 2017. So can you tell us about, your journey and where it started and how it led to you becoming mayor of Birmingham?
And so everybody knows Birmingham is home through and through. I'm fortunate how I grew up, how I was raised. 4 generations in my home, and a mother that our house was basically Big Mama house. We took care of everybody. If you got out of prison, that's where you came. If you were strung out on drugs, that's where the children came. If an adult died and children needed to be taken care of, we brought them in. My mother took care of literally everybody. And so just watching that over all the years, my natural disposition is to want to help. Combined with having family live all over the city of Birmingham, I had a unique perspective to spend time literally across the city as a child. So seeing my city as a child and seeing it as an adult gave me some motivation to make it want to be better. Now, in between in that bridge, bagging groceries as early as 15 years old in my first job, understanding what customer service and helping people meant. Attending a small liberal arts college on the Red Clay Hill called Morehouse College. I think it was there, this intersection of not just academic rigor, but leadership and community service kind of motivated me to say, I'm going home to make a difference. So there's an actual gentleman here. He has to forgive me for not knowing his name. But before I got mic'd up, I went outside. And he said, hey, I recognize you. And he said, did you go to HBCU? Of course, we connected all of that. But what we really connected on, everybody, is that we were both in a Ebony magazine article back in 2002, so 21 years ago. And in this article, it highlighted student leadership at various HBCUs across the nation. And we all got the same question about what it was we wanted to be, what did we want to do when we grow up. So in this national publication, shout out to Ebony, 21 years ago, I actually said at the age of 21, I wanted to be the mayor of my hometown city, Birmingham, and 15 years later, I became mayor. So, you know, this audience ranges in age and generation, but I would just say to anybody, including a person like my mom, who at age 50 pursued and got a degree in education because she always wanted to be a teacher and became a teacher at over 50 years old. Mm-hmm. It doesn't matter if you are 50 years of age and pursue your dream, or 21 years of age and say out loud what it is you want to be. I think it's important to do what your purpose is, say out loud what you want to do, and then go do it.
Man, that's powerful. That's powerful. That deserves a round of applause. Thank you.
Thank you.
And so let's stay here for a moment, because being an elected official, some people would refer to elected officials as politicians, and I don't think you can escape politics if you're an elected official. But then there's another way to describe people who are elected, and that's public servants. So could you just kind of break that down, unpack that for us?
Yeah, so for the record, politicians suck. I said it. This is recorded. So there it is. And let me explain what I mean by that. I think so often people get in positions and we become selfish, or we're already selfish, and that it just exemplifies itself. We make it about us. We get caught up in the hype. We get caught up in the titles. We get caught up in the, quote, power. But at the municipal, local level, it is really about the fundamentals of serving, helping people. I can't speak to the federal, state level because that's its own monster and it's a different level. But I do think at the local level, you have a duty when you sign up for a position. If you have an elected school board, your elected city council, your mayor, I do think collectively we owe it to the people we serve to humble ourselves, to eat humble pie every day. I want y'all to know humble pie is good. I think we owe it to the people we serve to focus on their issues. I think we owe it to them to have a sense of urgency to help them out. And I think when we have this wording we say of putting people first. I think when elected officials, public servants actually put the people first, then every decision you make, every action you take, the words you say how you move becomes about the people you serve, and the job, even if it's hard, even if the decision is tough, you make it because you are actually serving and helping people.
So the putting people first is more than your campaign slogan.
Yeah.
It's the way you govern.
You have to govern that way. I think in the job of municipal government, you have limited resources. So you start with the resources you have, realize you can't solve every problem overnight, and you can't solve every problem at all. And so you focus and you create priorities. But whatever priority you have, it has to be people-centric and focused.
Perfect. So I don't know if you remember the first meeting you and I had after you became mayor. Now I've known this young man. We actually were neighbors, lived in the same loft building back in the mid-2000s. Knew he was an attorney, knew he was bright, had no idea you would end up on the school board and then, go on to be mayor. But the first meeting you and I had after you became mayor, you said to me that you were going to cure blight and build affordable housing in Birmingham, and you've begun to do that with growth. So I want you to talk a bit about, and Ed mentioned it, but I want from your perspective to kind of talk about growth and what growth is doing and how that fits into the overall affordable housing development scheme, and scheme is a good word, the scheme that you have for Birmingham.
So you all have to forgive me in advance. This will not be a short answer. I start with the personal narrative first. I think it's important to understand my mindset around why focus on affordable housing, why focus on revitalization. But I think it's rooted in my own childhood. I told you all about the house I grew up in. My grandparents lived in public housing. When my brother was born, my mother and father lived in public housing. My aunts, I had 3 aunts live in 3 separate public housing sites in Birmingham. I had 2 uncles live in the same public housing site. So if you're doing the math, that's at least 5 different public housing sites just in my family. And I watched one of my aunts go from public housing to a Habitat home in 1998. I remember that. I was a senior in high school. I remember another aunt moved from public housing to a home in West End. And I remember another aunt moved from Loving Village public housing to Mason City in a house, single family home. And neither of my uncles never got that opportunity. But I remember how that changed their lives because I saw it in real time. And I know the power of what being a homeowner provides a person in pride, the intangible of pride, the perspective of taking care of their property, being a homeowner, and all that stuff. And so fast forward to being mayor, the city of Birmingham, when I became mayor, was a city that has gone from 340,000 residents to a little over 200,000. And so you can imagine the amount of blight that was in our city. And so the first term, Bob and everybody, millions of dollars were spent raising houses that were dilapidated, burned out, not livable. And it was thousands of them. Now I'm using taxpayer dollars, everybody. Just a note, using taxpayers' dollars to remove blight, where I believe that money should have been spent on paving streets, removing potholes, sidewalks, lights, city infrastructure, what municipal government is actually responsible for. But if your local government didn't participate in that blight removal, it would just continue to accelerate at a rate that many of us couldn't imagine. So once you remove blight, now you have what I call snaggletooth neighborhoods. You all get that image, right? House, empty lot, house, empty lot, home. That's not acceptable to the residents who still live in that block, who still live on that street, who still live in that neighborhood. And so I think it was important to now in this second term, now that we've spent the considerable amount of money, millions of dollars that thanks to the council have approved, we now need to accelerate going vertical with more single family homes. And to be clear, I am all pro market rate driven homes and market rate driven anything. But I think it's incumbent upon in municipal governments to commit to playing in the affordability conversation. Now, we do that through partnership. We have our housing authority partners here, that's led by Dontrell Foster. We have other partners here, our banking partners. Shout out to all the banks that help with growth in NCRC. But growth through NCRC has been, you all, such an incredible, pivotal partner in making sure the city of Birmingham can turn a vision into something tangible and a reality to give home ownership to everyday Birminghamians, and it's amazing to watch in real time.
Somebody was clapping. You can go ahead.
It's all good. I don't know who it was. Shout out to the one clapping. We see you. We love you.
So right now, Oak Hill, Pratt,
Yes.
Woodline, we have 3 groundbreakings.
We do with the immediate goal of building 450. We've had 3 groundbreakings near 100 homes. Mm-hmm. And this work comes from several pots of money. We have the City of Birmingham's General Fund. We have something that a lot of cities in this audience have, American Rescue Plan dollars, our ARPA funds. And then I have a leadership team here that's led by Dr. Megan Venable Thomas, along with Corey Stallworth, as well as Kelvin Datcher that leads our community development team. And they are responsible for CDBG funding. So with the combination of our community development block grant dollars, our general fund dollars, our ARPA dollars, what we have committed to is being super, super creative, everyone, around how to drive down costs. Bob, we all know in this room that construction costs increase during and post the coronavirus global health pandemic. And then when you tag on what interest rates have done, let's say in 2021, your interest rate was probably 3%. I think in 2023, that interest rate now is anywhere between 5 and 7. That's unmanageable that's not imaginable for a person who wants to be a homeowner because that cost keeps going up.
You know, and that's something that we are going to talk about. But I want to circle back and just shine a bright light on 450 affordable homes in a community where we were tearing down houses
Yes.
for the last 40 years.
Yes.
100, that are coming out of the ground right now, many of them already occupied. I mean, I think that's a great thing. I think that's a great accomplishment, and you shouted out to the partners that made it happen. Certainly, your partnership with Growth is a model that other cities should follow. I think that with that 450 projection, just based on Birmingham's size, I don't think there's another city in the U.S. That can match that kind of productivity on the affordable housing front.
This is what I'll say to that, Bob. I think I spoke at this conference last year, and anytime I get a chance to speak, I'm excited to say that a city like Birmingham is a mid-sized city, everyone. And a mid-sized city affords us the opportunity to be small enough to try something. Literally be creative as you want. And if it's successful, then it's also large enough for you to be able to scale it to any other community city. And so I think what we have going on in the city of Birmingham through partnership, especially with Growth leading, but with our banking institutions, as well as other local partners, the Housing Authority, et cetera, we're in a position to show America how to get this done in the affordable housing conversation.
And speaking of your positioning, I want to point out the fact that you have recently been appointed to the Federal Home Loan Bank of Atlanta Affordable Housing Council.
Yes, sir.
I'm not sure that there are other elected officials, but certainly your perspective there is going to be important. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so the Federal Housing Loan Bank of Atlanta, I'm fortunate to be a member. There is one other elected official by the name of my friend, Vi Lyles, the mayor of Charlotte, North Carolina. Her and I are the only elected officials on this advisory board, but let me tell you all the impact and power of the home loan. I think you all, well, I'm in a room with professionals, so you already know. I'm not gonna be the choir today and tell you what you already know or what you've already heard about the home loan. But my emphasis is on two words related to my position as an advisory board member: community investment. When we talk about liquidity and what banks are offering and what the home loan does, I don't want anybody to miss the commitment towards community investment. That's why I'm there. That's why I want to serve. That's why I have a seat. And with my seat at the table, I am using my platform, I am using my voice, I am using my position, along with Vi, to say that this is the responsibility of banks. And I am not just referring to CRA, right? The mandatory things you have to do. I'm talking about the things you should be voluntarily doing in your community. And this is me looking at all the banking institutions in this room. The liquidity is here on one hand, and we appreciate the work and what you're offering. But we want you to be intentional about accelerating that, offering other opportunities and more opportunities to potential homeowners on the community investment side.
Okay. You know, and really preserving affordability and really preserving and creating more home ownership in our communities is a challenge. And one of the things that challenges us, well, we were challenged in the earlier this century with a lot of predatory lending practices, exorbitant interest rates, and that got us in trouble. But we're also challenged by what I've heard called parasitic capital. And that's the investors that are coming into our communities and buying swaths of property, sometimes sight unseen, and only making it available for rent, which is, you know, just not going to help create wealth and create community. So, you know, and we're fighting against that. I know you're fighting against that too.
We are. Just, again, this room has perspective more so than a lot of people. We all know what happened back in 2008 with that recession. It seemed that a lot of people got shy post that as it relates to on the sales side, and so rent became a thing. But then, you're right, it became predatory. It became overly aggressive. And now you have swaths of land and opportunity being gobbled up by investors nobody are able to identify through these LLCs and all these other organizations that they create. And then they make rent unaffordable. So it's one thing for us to have a conversation about the market and affordability. But in that space, it's a challenge, particularly as elected officials, mayor and council. When I know this council very well, a lot of us came in together. They're fresh, they're young, they're vibrant. They have a lot of energy and they have a lot of passion around this conversation I'm looking at them right now, of housing in their individual districts. But we're all facing the same struggle of that form. And so that is I'll be honest, that is an uphill battle fight where it's hard for government to create policies and I guess laws around how to solve that. I'm going to be honest, we haven't solved for that, but we acknowledge it and we're trying to fight against it. Now, through our land bank, the city of Birmingham is fortunate to have a land bank. We try to solve for that type of behavior where a person wants to buy 150 land bank properties and then just sit on them, hoping that things change. And then all of a sudden, homes go on these lots, but they're not affordable.
That's right.
And so that's one of the ways we solve for that is through our land bank, because we can control that.
I want to pivot us back to, obviously, when we're talking about affordable houses to, you know, working class families, sometimes they need help. And some of that help traditionally has come through down payment assistance, closing cost assistance, and that's great. But now, and you mentioned it earlier, had you closed on a house 24 months ago, then your rate could have been half of what it is today.
Literally.
And so now, when you're talking about a $220,000 house, there is a significant extra added burden on the purchaser. And in financing that home, that's a 30-year burden. Now, we do have, I know, one bank in the room that has sought to address this through interest rate buy downs, the ability to use discount points to buy rates down. It's always been, a product of in the mortgage space, but not, usually promoted or used a lot. So I want to get you to talk more about, this idea of how we can make sure that interest rates are still affordable so we don't slow consumption and sale and production of houses.
So the first place, I'll pick up where I left, which is construction cost was handing it to everybody in 21. If you bought a home and it was, let's say your interest rate was 3%, but let's say you wanted to build a gate or a fence. Let's say you want to build a fence, not a gate. You literally couldn't afford wood. Or windows. You wanted to get new windows. It took you, 6-8 months just to get new windows, whether if your home was new or if you wanted to replace. So construction costs literally was like handed to everybody. That's literally slowed construction down. Now you fast forward 2 years later, and some of those spaces construction costs has leveled off, but it still takes too long to get material. So now you're backed up. Then let's say you actually finish construction. Now interest rate is out of hand. And interest rate is really out of hand, and so you all should know most of the time when I'm with Ed, I listen, I don't talk. But some of the things I hold on to, he tells me the huge difference if interest rate is between 5 and 7. And so interest rate between 5 and 7 has an additional $200-something a month toward a person's mortgage. Over the lifespan of that mortgage, I think he told me that number is north of $70,000 added on when your interest rate is between 5 and 7. And so I think it's important, again, that we be creative in this space. How do we drive down interest rates? And I'm not necessarily saying you can get it back down to somewhere between 2 and 4, but what if municipal governments, along with banking institutions, shout out to First Horizon Bank. By the way, let me just pause and acknowledge First Horizon Bank. And if you're in this room with First Horizon, please stand. Oh yeah, just wave your hand, they're not gonna stand. Oh, thank you. A shout out to the Birmingham team as well with First Horizon. Let me tell you what they've done. They've been intentional in driving down interest rates. I think as municipal government, we have, my one clapper, we see you. I told you earlier we love you too. We have an interest in driving down that rate. If you can just drive that rate down at least 2 points, that's a total game changer for a potential homeowner. That knocks off that $200+ on what that mortgage would be. And so the city of Birmingham, along with Grove, shout out to Ed Gorman again, we are going to tackle, we're going to own this space. The city of Birmingham looks to be, again, another example in the present and future, driving down that interest rate costs to make sure we can have more homeowners.
Absolutely, yeah. Thank you for that. Hey, I want to pivot to a couple of other things, and then I'll come back and we'll talk a bit more about housing before we wrap. But there are two things that you've done since being mayor, and I know one is really close to your heart, it's the Birmingham Promise.
Oh, yeah.
And I wouldn't, I think that even though it's not housing, and this conversation is a lot about housing, I think we would be remiss if we didn't, get you to talk more about that, because our children are our future.
So Birmingham Promise, everybody, was an idea from being a school board member. I sit on the stage, I guess not as big as this, but similar to this, for at least 4 years. I've done it now over 6. But having an opportunity, but that I think was the most amazing part about the job, or opportunity to shake hands with every single high school graduate of all of our high schools. Every now and then there was a bottleneck on this stage that afforded me the opportunity to simply say to a young person, what are you doing next? I think enough of us have been around young people where they look at an adult in their eyes and they say something because they want to please us, right? And then they would inherently walk off the stage go back into the audience with their classmates, turn their tassels, walk out with their families, but not necessarily know what they're going to do after high school. So the Birmingham Promise was a simple notion of every child, I believe, when they finish high school, should enter the military, workforce, or college. Now, I don't care which one they do, but I think it should be one of those. And so the Birmingham Promise has an investment and focus on 2 out of 3 of those options. Right now, if you are a senior in high school at Birmingham City Schools, you have the opportunity to leave high school early, receive high school credits for working, work a minimum of 15, 16 hours a week, and be paid a livable wage of $15 an hour, which is a game changer. That same high school senior, when they graduate now from high school, can attend any 2-year, 4-year public state college or university, free tuition, no questions asked. No GPA score, no GPA, no SAT, ACT score. This is a genuine public-private partnership. The city municipal government, shout out to the council, supports the apprenticeship side of the $15 an hour side with $10 million. And the tuition scholarship side is 100% raised by the private sector, local business community in Birmingham. So shout out to my local business community.
All right.
But there is something that you need to support this work, which is another gentleman in this room. Shout out to Isaac Cooper and the Financial Freedom Project. City of Birmingham, in partnership with Isaac Cooper and his company, has created a robust financial literacy curriculum for elementary, middle, and high school students in Birmingham City. The point is, no one taught me financial literacy. I didn't get it at home. I didn't get it at school. And now at age 41, I understand what financial literacy means. But think about if I would have been taught as a child at home or at school. Well, the Financial Freedom Project now instills in children the basics and the fundamentals of finances, from checking, budgeting, savings, everything, the consumer products, etc. These same children will one day be homeowners. These same children will one day have access to capital and credit. They need to know what to do with it. And so all of that's attached, the Birmingham Promise and this Financial Freedom Project. When you have a city like Birmingham that has a minimum of 20% poverty, these 2 forms of our way of fighting poverty.
That's good. All right. So you know, I work in small business and work with small businesses every day. And one of the other things that your administration has done that I think is really important is actually started a small business council. And so now small business owners have voice. You know, they have a place in your administration, they have a voice. I think that's important as well. Would you talk about that?
So earlier, you know, I told y'all about politicians. I won't repeat it. But I do think often people come into office and all the things they campaigned on, they spend time listening to people and, quote, telling people what they were going to do. And then when they get into office, they close themselves off. They don't like criticism. They don't like outside noise. They don't like anybody telling them what to do. And so when you close yourself off, you stop listening. And I think it's important to acknowledge that municipal governments don't know enough about what small business owners go through, what the risk takers, what the entrepreneurs actually do on a daily basis to provide for their customers. And then you got to acknowledge for all the risk takers, entrepreneurs, and small businesses owners in this room, they contribute to your local economy via taxes. So I think it's incumbent that this is a mutual relationship. And then my interest is to actually take care of them because I want their businesses in the city limits to provide for their customers are our residents. That being the case, we need to listen to them. What are their issues? What are their concerns? The business license process to become a business owner, the renewal process, the permitting process. Let me be the first to tell you, we're not perfect. But listening to small business owners does put us in a position to strive to be more efficient as well as effective in how we deliver services and provide services to our small business owners.
And I think it's really important. I will say that Birmingham has become more business friendly. And I think that that's an opinion that's shared across the customers that we have at the BBRC and
Yes,
the
sir.
folks that we talk to. So
You have to.
thank you for doing that.
Yes, sir.
So, we're going to wrap up, but I want to, just turn to you once again. And, as you think about the landscape of things that you'd like to see happen, and I mentioned this, if you were putting together a wish list, what would be on your list?
Well, as we close out, before I answer that question, let me again acknowledge Growth, NCRC, team on the ground in Birmingham. Then let me acknowledge, honestly, everybody, big shout out to every single banking institution in this room. Thank you for what you're doing. If you want to do more, please do it. If you're not doing enough, do more. Your local communities need you. Everything does not have to be about CRA. Sometimes you need to do things. Community work is hard. Community work is not for the faint of heart. Community work takes time, but community work also takes commitment. That commitment is, I go back to those two words, community investment. What you're doing is not a handout. What you're doing is not charity work. We all want returns on what we invest in. Investing in affordable housing pays for itself. So please do more, give more, and thank you for what you're already doing. So wish list one. Banks, give more. Thank you. Wish list two is any other elected officials in this room. Let's keep depending on each other. Let's keep bouncing best practices off each other. The only competition we should be in is to be better leaders. Wish list three is very simple. We have to continue to find ways to get information to a potential homeowner. We can do more. And the last thing I would say in closing is this. It is incumbent upon us as elected officials and public servants to do this work. And if we don't do it, nobody else will.
All right. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you so much. Thank you all. I want to especially thank my mayor, Mayor Randall Woodfin.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ed. Thank you, Jesse, and all the team at NCRC, the team in Birmingham, all the members of BAR. It's been a great morning, and I'm looking forward to the rest of the day. Thank you all so much.
Thank y'all.